Hello friends, welcome to Technobytes. In this video, we are going to learn about one of the most important concepts, and it is one of the core components of Android, that is broadcast receiver. So broadcast receiver are basically a system-wide events or messages that are published by the Android operating system, and the other applications have their broadcast receivers installed, and which then gets triggered once the specific event happens. So for example, let's say you are watching a video in some video player, and there is some incoming call. Then the video automatically pauses, and when the call is ended, the video automatically resumes. How this is handled in the specific video player application? So that is handled through the broadcast receiver. When there is an incoming call, Android system notifies that there is an incoming call, and there is a broadcast receiver installed in the video player, that when that event happens, that media player catches that, and it behaves like it pauses the video and continues with the call. Thus, this is one of the important concepts that we might need often when we are developing some high level applications. Now, there are two types of broadcast receiver. One is static and another is a dynamic. And there are other concepts like implicit broadcast and explicit broadcast. So all these things we are going to learn in this video. So at the end of this video, you will have clear understanding about all of these concepts. So make sure you watch till the end. So let's get started. So here I am in the blank tutorial. It's just a hello world program as usual. There is no extra code. So we'll first look what are static receivers. So we are going to implement static receivers first. So static receivers are basically the events which are triggered by your app, and your app can listen to those events even if your app is not running. It is in the background state. So these events are event triggered, like let's say there is one boot completed event. So this event is gonna fire when your device gets restarted, and this when the restart is completed, then this boot completed event will be fired by the Android system. This broadcast message will be published by Android system, and your app can receive this event even if it is not running and execute or code in background. So for this, we have to create one specific class to so that whenever that event is fired, we will be writing the code in that specific class. So let's write pick new kotlin class file, and we'll name it as boot completed receiver. Okay, and we'll be extending this class from broadcast receiver. Here it is showing an error because we have to implement one method, that is on receive. So this is the place where we will be writing the code which we want to execute after this event is fired. So in this on receive function, we are getting two parameters. First one is a context and another one is an intent. So this intent has one attribute, that is action, in which the event will get the actually which event is triggered. So we'll first check if intent dot action equals intent dot action boot completed. So after that event is triggered, we'll be checking if intent dot action, whatever the intent we got, does that does the action attribute in the intent do that is equals with action boot completed. If it yes, then we'll be doing just one thing, that is logging. So I'll write here check result, and here I'll write boot completed event received. Okay, and the locket I have already written this check result, so that we'll be able to see our result in our locket. Now we need to go to Android manifest. In the manifest, we need to provide one permission first. Use this permission receive boot completed, so that we will be able to, so that our app should know uh, whether the device is boot is completed. So for that we need user permission, and this permission is just a normal permission, so we don't need to explicitly ask user to give a permission at runtime. We just need to include this line, and inside this application tag, but outside this activity tag, we have to register that receiver. Whatever event we are going to register, we have to register that event in the Android manifest file. So here we are going to receive action boot completed event, and we have created separate class for that. Now this class is a broadcast receiver class, subclass of that, so we can use that. So we can just write here receiver and name that it is auto suggesting that boot completed receiver. Yes, we are going to implement that. And later we have to declare intent receiver inside this, and inside this intent there is an action attribute, and here is a android name. Now this name is the same event we want to receive, so we will choose the boot completed. Okay, here is one error it is showing because we have to add set exported equal to true attribute, so that this receiver is not limited to this application. We want to receive this event out when our application is not running. That's why android exported equal to true, we have to set it. One thing we need to take a note of, here it is a space, so this space is not allowed. If we allow this space, then it is considered as an extra character, and this whole event will not get matched with here, and will not get this boot completed event received message. So make sure there is no space remaining here. We should be passing the exact string, and then we can try running our application. Okay, my application is running, and in the logcat I have already put that tag, and now I'll try to restart my device. Restart. And yes, we are able to see here our log statement has been here published. Check result and boot completed event received, we are able to see it here. Though we don't have at opened our application since we reset our device. So if you click here, there are no recent applications open, but still that code gets executed because this is a static receiver, and irrespective of application open or not, this event will be received by our application. So these are called static receivers. But these are very limited, there are very limited static receivers, because android from android oreo api level 26 and onwards, android system has put a lot of restrictions on these static receivers. Because what was happening, when all events were acting like static receivers, then any application user might have installed uh, 10 to 15 applications on his or her device, but when some event gets triggered, and most of the applications have broadcast receiver installed in them, so even if this application user is not using those, still these applications start executing their own code, and this was consuming a lot of battery, and in some cases the device might get hanged. That's why android system had put this limitation, and there are only few exceptions that we are now able to receive as the static receivers. So we can see the list of these static receivers here in the official developer android website, implicit broadcast exceptions. So there are some events listed here. Only these events are the exceptional events which can still be received if our application is not running. And here it is written that implicit broadcast exception. Now this broadcast receiver was implicit because we haven't specified to which application, to what we need to broadcast this event. We just need to receive this event, so we have not explicitly defined anywhere. That's why this is an implicit broadcast receiver. So now let's move towards, we are now going to learn about dynamic receivers. So dynamic receivers are those which can be triggered, which can be received only when our application is running. When user is interacting only with our application, then only we are able to receive. Like just in at the starting, I have discussed the example of the phone call coming when we are watching some video in some video player. That can be a dynamic receiver, because when we will be watching the video, that we will be actually interacting with that, and that time we can use dynamic receiver to receive that incoming call event. There is one event like airplane mode that we are going to see with the help of dynamic receivers, but the dynamic receivers cannot be received when our application is not running. So that is the main difference between static and dynamic receivers. So for the dynamic receivers, we don't have to register that receiver here. Of course we have to do the process, like here we have to create a separate class for this, or we can receive the same event in this class as well. But let's create a different class. I'll create one class, airplane mode changed receiver. Okay, and then again the same thing, we will be extending this class from broadcast, sorry, not to computer, broadcast receiver, from the broadcast receiver, and we will be implementing the on receive method. And here we will be checking, sorry, if intent dot action equals intent dot airplane mode changed, then we'll be putting some log statement, we'll be putting the same log tag as a check result here, and here we'll write airplane mode changed. Okay, so whenever the airplane mode is toggled at the on or off, then we'll get this broadcast event, but only when our application is running. So for that we have made the class. Okay, now we don't have to do in anything in Android manifest for this one. Instead we have to go to main activity here. So here we can just make a variable of this val airplane mode change receiver equals to, we are just initializing this. Okay, and here we get one method, register receiver. So in this register receiver, this takes two parameters. First one is our receiver class, that is airplane mode change receiver, and another one is the intent filter. So through intent filter we can specify the action which we want to receive. In this we'll specify intent dot action airplane mode changed. So this we are telling this register receiver that this one is our broadcast receiver class, in which you have to go and execute the code, but when this method, when this event gets triggered. And which event is that? Airplane mode changed. So that is the thing we have to do, and we generally unregister this event. In the on destroy function we can unregister this event to prevent memory leaks. Unregister receiver, and we can just pass this airplane mode change receiver. That's it, we just have to do this thing, and whatever the code we will be writing in this broadcast receiver class in the on receive method, that code will be executed. Now let's try running our application. I'll clear the logcat first, and yes, we do have the same target check result. And now I'll here toggle the airplane mode. Here it is on, I'll just click on this one and make it off. And yes, we are able to see airplane mode changed event here. I'll again make this on, and we are able to see airplane mode changed event. So that is the thing about dynamic receiver. So dynamic receiver will only be executed when our application is running. Now I close my application, I kill that from these recent tabs, and you can see here process ended. So our application is no longer running, and now I toggle this airplane mode. I clicked on it and made it off, but still we are not getting anything. I am making it on again, not getting anything. I am making off again, and not we are not receiving the event because our application is not running. When our application is running, we get the event, otherwise we don't. That's what we call as dynamic receivers. Now broadcast receiver is one of the way through which two applications installed in one phone can interact with each other. They can send or receive data to each other with the help of the same concept, broadcast receiver. So let's check out how it happens. I am already in this project, and I have created a separate project, that is broadcast sender app. So in this, we will send our broadcast message from this application to our another application, to our first application, and we'll see if that message gets received or not. Of course, it will be get received. So for that, we just have to do one thing. There are also two types here. One is static and one is dynamic, as we know. So dynamic receiver will be triggered whenever our receiving application is running, but our static receiver, if we installed static receiver in our receiving application, then even though our application is not running, we'll get the result, like the code will be executed in the on receive of the receiving application. So here I am in the another application, that is sender application. So I am creating here one intent. In this intent, I am just initializing this intent. In this intent, I will specify one action. So that action, this action attribute should be unique. So for keeping a unit, I will just copy the package name of the sender app, paste it here, and click on that and say test action. This action is nothing but a string. So we have to keep this string unique. That's why I have appended this in front of this test action. Now I am creating here intent dot set package. Now I am setting the package of the application in on which I have to send the event. So this broadcast receiver is called as explicit broadcast, because we are explicitly specifying where in what application we have to target. So other application will not be able to receive this event if we have set the package name. That's the benefit of explicit receiver. So I'll just copy this package name of the receiver app, and in the center app I'll paste this. Now I'll just say send broadcast and pass this intent. Of course, we can change this to file. Now I have created a one button here in the sender app that is saying send broadcast, and on the click of that we'll be triggering this broadcast send broadcast task. So I'll use find view by id button r.id.send broadcast dot set on click listener, and will integrate all this code inside this click event. Okay, that is done. So now I go to receiver app, and in the receiver app, as we are practicing a dynamic receiver first, the interaction between two apps with the help of dynamic receivers. So in the main activity, we have already registered this event in the class airplane mode change receiver. So we can use the same class, and we can basically use the same thing. If intent action, we just have to modify this airplane mode changed. We have to replace this with the same string which we have passed in the our sender app. So this action is a string, unique string, that we will be receiving in our application. So we are received in our application test action. If this action comes as this equals t string, then here we will be saying test action received. Okay, so let me verify the package name again, broadcast receiver tutorial and broadcast receiver tutorial dot test action. Yeah, that's good. Now we don't have to do anything. We can just first launch our receiver app. Open the locket. Locket has the same attribute, check result, and in our sender app, we I'll just run that on the same device. I'll run the sender app. So here I am in the receiver receiving app. So receiving app is also running in the background. It is also running here, and now we have to click on send broadcast. Okay, we are not getting the broadcast because one thing I missed, that is the intent filter we have applied here. It's still receiving that airplane mode action changed. So we have to replace the action from here as well. We have to use the same action that we have declared in the sender app. Here, okay, now we'll be register. We are registering for this application, for this broadcast specific event. Okay, now I need to restart the receiver application. I restart the receiver application, and now the sender application is also running in background. Now I click on send broadcast, and now we are getting test action received. So this is how two devices can communicate with each other with the help of dynamic broadcast. But as the rule of dynamic broadcast applies here as well, if the application receiving application is running, only if it can observe to this event. If I close this application of this receiver, now this application receiver tutorial has been stopped. Now I click on send broadcast. We will not be able to get this event because our application is no longer running. So let's now try see how we can set static broadcast from one application to another, even if the another application will not in running in the foreground. Then also it will make sure that we are receiving whatever the broadcast message sent by the application. So let's modify our code a bit. For that, we don't need this register and unregister things. We'll just commenting out this one. The process is pretty much similar. We just have to define a receiver here like we did first time. Receiver, that is airplane mode change receiver, and here intent filter inside this action, and here name we have to provide the same, that is test action, and we have to make it that send export as true, and that's we are good with the implementation. Now let's try running this application. Let me clear the locket. Okay, this application has run. Now I'll stop this application, and now I'll click on this send broadcast button, and yes, we are able to see test action received here even though the application is not running. If I click on back here, we are just at the home screen. So there is no receiving application, it's running, but still we are able to receive the static broadcast because we have declared that in our receiver, and it is a explicit broadcast. Why it is explicit? Because in the sender app we have explicitly said that set package name to this one, so that this is what actually this is one optional one we can set or not set. But if we our aim is to communicate between two applications, then it is recommended that we should use explicit broadcast. And as we are explicitly specifying this package name that we want to communicate send broadcast to only this application, this thing comes under explicit broadcast. That's about this tutorial of broadcast receiver. In this, we have covered both static broadcast, dynamic broadcast, and both the static and dynamic broadcast while communicating between two applications. And we have also discussed what is called as explicit broadcast and implicit broadcast. So I hope that topic is that all things are clear to you. If not, you can just drop me a comment of whatever your question you had. I'll try my best to answer those. Now implement this thing practically in one of your application where you needed the broadcast receiver, and let me know how it worked. If you like this video, then please click on like, share with your friends and subscribe to this channel so that you won't miss such a knowledgeable and helpful videos to become a better Android developer. We'll meet in the next tutorial. Till then, goodbye, happy coding.